Um, I'm thinking like I don't want to say generation before me, but I guess I'll say that. Trumpet players around Chicago, there used to be quite a few really superb ones. Nappy Trottier, no question about him. There was a gentleman named, I can't think of his name. Oh, so I'll go to another one whose name I can think of, and that's Norm Murphy, who was a superb trumpet player too. Now these guys, none of them recorded that much. They should have, but they didn't. Norm Murphy actually came out of Pennsylvania, but he came to Chicago from St. Louis. He got an offer to come and play at Jazz Limited in Chicago when he was in St. Louis, and he took it. And not knowing that it was a Dixieland place, which he didn't like at all. But he came up and started playing there, and he went from there to other kinds of stuff. Unfortunately, he was his own worst enemy, so his career went downhill. Let's put it that way. You'll see him. He played with I think it was Gene Krupa's band, and there's some movie that comes up on television once in a while. Like you can see him in that band. But from there, he just started going downhill. Wound up not playing much at all. But he should have been. He was a superb trumpet player. No question about that. There were a couple other guys that nobody's ever really heard of because they were just all around good players. They didn't have to play like or they didn't, I shouldn't say didn't have to, but they played in other kinds of bands other than jazz bands. One was a guy named Lou Gautreaux. And I can't really tell you much about him except there he was. And you needed a trumpet player, you could get him, and he'd do a great job for you. The other gentleman that I wanted to mention, I've lost his name for a minute. I can't think of it. But you always could get a good trumpet player. They wouldn't necessarily know some of the more obscure tunes, but that didn't matter. They could still play. Let me see here. I'm thinking of some of these other guys that were like, say, 10 or 15 years older than I. Frank Chace, but you all know about Frank Chace already, probably more than I do. Because I never got a chance to play with him, but most inventive clarinet player that I can think of. Certainly different. And so Frank didn't get called by a lot of band leaders because he was too different to suit them, which is too bad. Too bad for them, and maybe not so bad for Frank. Then he didn't have to play with a lot of people that maybe he wouldn't have wanted to play with.